Have you ever wondered if it's possible to rebuild love after words that destroy everything? If you can forgive when the person you love most hurts you in what should be the happiest moment of your life? The city lights of Beaverton, Oregon blurred through my tears as I watched her getting dressed in the dim light of our bedroom. The silk blouse she was buttoning with such deliberate precision was the same one she wore to our first business meeting 2 years ago. Back then, I thought she was just another investor. I had no idea she would become my wife and then break my heart on our wedding night. My throat felt raw from crying, every breath a struggle against the weight pressing down on my chest. The wedding dress I had worn just hours ago lay crumpled on the floor like a discarded dream, white lace and promises, now meaningless. "Elena," I whispered, my voice barely audible in the suffocating silence. She didn't turn around, just continued with those damn buttons, one by one, each click echoing like a gunshot in the room. How could someone move with such grace while simultaneously destroying everything we had built? The words she had spoken still rang in my ears. This marriage was a mistake. 7 words that shattered 2 years of love, trust, and dreams of a future together. 7 words that made me question everything I thought I knew about us. You know that feeling when your world tilts on its axis and nothing makes sense anymore? When the person you trust most becomes a stranger in front of your eyes? That's exactly where I was, drowning in confusion and pain. "Please," I tried again, my voice cracking. "Look at me." She finally finished the last button and turned around. Her dark eyes, usually so warm when they looked at me, were cold and distant. There was something there, though, buried deep. Pain, maybe regret, but it vanished as quickly as it appeared. "I need to go for a walk," she said, her voice flat and emotionless. "I need to clear my head." Clear her head? On our wedding night? After telling me our marriage was a mistake? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to shake her until she explained how we went from exchanging vows to this nightmare. But the words stuck in my throat like broken glass. She walked toward the door, and with each step, I felt our future slipping away. The apartment we had chosen together, the life we had planned, the children we had talked about adopting. Everything was crumbling. "Don't go," I managed to whisper, but she was already at the door. The click of it closing behind her was the loneliest sound I had ever heard. I lay there in the growing dawn light, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what had gone wrong. Just 12 hours ago, we were dancing at our reception, her arms around me, whispering promises of forever. Her friends from the tech industry, my family who had finally accepted us, everyone celebrating our love. And now, this. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from my sister. "How's married life treating you?" How could I even begin to answer that? The morning sun was painting the walls golden when I finally dragged myself out of bed. Elena still wasn't back. Part of me wondered if she would come back at all. I made coffee with shaking hands, the familiar routine feeling foreign in this new reality. The kitchen still smelled like the flowers from our wedding, white roses and baby's breath that now seemed to mock me with their beauty. That's when I heard her key in the lock. She walked in looking exhausted, her usually perfect hair disheveled, her clothes wrinkled. We stared at each other across the kitchen island like strangers. "We need to talk," she said finally. "Now you want to talk?" The bitterness in my voice surprised even me. "After walking out on our wedding night?" She flinched, and for a moment, I saw a crack in her armor. "I know I hurt you. I know what I said was what, Elena? True? A mistake? Which part was the mistake? Marrying me or telling me about it?" She ran her hands through her hair, a gesture I knew meant she was struggling with something. "It's complicated." "Complicated?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. "We're married, Elena. We just promised to love each other for better or worse. How is that complicated?" She was quiet for so long I thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Because I'm terrified." The honesty in her voice stopped my anger cold. Terrified of what? Of losing you. Of not being enough. Of this all falling apart like... She stopped herself. Like what? Like everything else in my life that I've ever cared about. And there it was. The real Elena. The one she hid behind her CEO facade and her perfectly controlled exterior. The woman who had been hurt before, who had learned to protect herself by pushing people away before they could leave. I wanted to reach for her, but something held me back. The hurt was still too fresh, the wound too deep. "So your solution is to destroy it yourself? To push me away before I can leave?" "I don't know." The words exploded out of her. "I don't know how to do this, okay? I don't know how to be married. I don't know how to trust that you won't wake up one day and realize you made a mistake. The only mistake here is what you said last night." She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. I know. God, I know. The moment the words left my mouth, I wanted to take them back, but I couldn't. They were already out there, already hurting you. We stood there in the morning light, two women who loved each other but didn't know how to bridge the gap that had opened between us. "I need time," I said finally. "I need time to process this." She nodded, understanding. "I'll stay at the hotel. Give you space." "Elena, no, it's okay. I caused this. I need to figure out how to fix it." After she left, I called in sick to work and spent the day in our apartment, surrounded by wedding gifts we hadn't even opened yet, cards from friends and family congratulating us on our beautiful love story. If only they knew. My phone rang constantly, friends wanting to hear about the honeymoon we were supposed to be on, family checking in on the newlyweds. I let it all go to voicemail. It was my best friend Sap Maya, who finally broke through my isolation, showing up at my door with ice cream and wine. "Okay, what happened?" she said, taking one look at my tear-stained face. "And don't tell me nothing. You look like someone died." So I told her. Everything. The wedding, the fight, Elena's words, the morning after. Maya listened without judgment, occasionally refilling my wine glass. "She's scared," Maya said when I finished. Terrified, actually. "Of what? Of me? Of being happy? Some people are so used to pain that happiness feels dangerous, like it's too good to be true. But we were happy. We were so happy, Maya." "Exactly. And that probably scared the hell out of her." I wanted to argue, to say that was ridiculous, but deep down, I knew Maya was right. Elena had been hurt before, by her ex-girlfriend who left her for a man, by her family who still struggled to accept her sexuality, by a business partner who betrayed her trust. So what do? You decide if she's worth fighting for. And if she is, you fight. But you make her fight too. Don't let her run away from this. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about our relationship, about all the moments that led us here. The first time she told me she loved me, the night she proposed, the way she cried during our vows. That woman, the one who cried during our vows, that was the real Elena. The one who said our marriage was a mistake was just scared. But being scared didn't give her the right to destroy us. I was making coffee the next morning when my phone rang. Elena's name on the screen made my heart race. "Hello? There's been an accident." Her voice was shaky, different. "I'm at the hospital." The world stopped. "What? Are you okay? What happened?" "I'm fine, mostly. Just some cuts and bruises, but can you come? I know I don't have the right to ask, but I'm on my way." I drove to the hospital faster than I should have, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if she was hurt worse than she said? What if I lost her before we could fix this? I found her in the emergency room, sitting on a bed with a bandage on her forehead and her arm in a sling. She looked small and vulnerable, nothing like the powerful CEO who commanded boardrooms. "What happened?" I asked, staying by the door, not sure if I was welcome closer. "Car accident. Some idiot ran a red light. I'm okay, just shaken up." She looked at me with those dark eyes I loved so much. "You came." "Of course I came. Even after what I said. After how I hurt you." I moved closer then, unable to stay away when she looked so broken. "Elena, we might be having problems, but I still love you. That doesn't just disappear overnight." She started crying then, quiet tears that broke my heart all over again. "I almost died today, and all I could think about was that the last thing I said to you was that our marriage was a mistake, that you would remember me as the woman who destroyed our wedding night." I sat on the edge of the bed, close enough to touch her but still holding back. "You didn't almost die. You're here. You're okay. But what if I wasn't? What if those were the last words between us?" "They weren't, and they don't have to define us." She looked at me with something like hope in her eyes. "Can you forgive me? I know I don't deserve it, but..." "Elena," I finally reached for her hand, the one that wasn't in a sling. "I can forgive you, but I need to understand why. I need to know that this won't happen again." She squeezed my hand like a lifeline. "I was so scared of losing you that I tried to lose you first. I know how crazy that sounds, but it felt safer than waiting for you to realize you could do better." "Better than what? Better than the woman I fell in love with? Better than the person I chose to marry?" "I'm not easy to love," she whispered. "I'm complicated and driven, and I work too much, and I don't know how to turn off my brain long enough to just be happy." "I know all of that. I fell in love with all of that. But what if it's not enough? What if you wake up one day and realize you want someone simpler? Someone who doesn't come with all my baggage? I understood then. Really understood. This wasn't about me or our relationship. This was about every person who had ever made her feel like she was too much, too complicated, too driven. This was about a lifetime of being told that successful women like her were hard to love. Elena, look at me. I waited until she met my eyes. I didn't marry your potential. I didn't marry who you might become if you changed. I married you, exactly as you are, complications and all. How can you be sure? Because I've had 2 years to figure it out. 2 years of your crazy schedule and your perfectionism and your need to control everything. And I'm still here. I'm still choosing you. She was quiet for a long time, processing. I'm going to need help. Therapy, probably. I can't keep sabotaging us every time I get scared. We'll figure it out together. That's what marriage is supposed to be, right? Figuring it out together? The doctor came in then to discharge her, and I drove her back to our apartment. She was quiet during the ride, but she held my hand the entire way. Back home, I helped her get settled on the couch, bringing her ice for her bruises and making tea. It felt strange, this careful politeness between us, but it was a start. I have something to tell you, she said as I handed her the mug, about why I freaked out so badly. I sat down beside her, close enough to offer comfort, but giving her space to talk. My ex, Vanessa, the one I told you about who left me for her male colleague? I nodded. I knew about Vanessa, though Elena rarely talked about her. What I didn't tell you was that she left me on the night I proposed to her. My heart clenched. Elena, I had this whole elaborate plan. Dinner at our favorite restaurant, the ring hidden in the dessert, everything perfect. And when I got down on one knee, she just laughed, said I was being ridiculous, that we were too young for that kind of commitment. I could picture it. Elena, vulnerable and hopeful, being crushed by someone who was supposed to love her. She moved out the next week, said she needed space to figure things out. 2 months later, she was engaged to him. I'm so sorry. I swore I would never put myself in that position again. Never be that vulnerable with someone who could destroy me so easily. But you proposed to me, because you made me believe in love again. You made me think maybe I could have the life I always wanted. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. And then our wedding night came, and all I could think about was Vanessa laughing at me. All I could think about was how stupid I was to believe in forever again. Everything made sense now. The panic in her eyes during our vows, the way she seemed to withdraw right after the ceremony, the cruel words that came from a place of terror rather than truth. I'm not Vanessa, I said softly. I know that. Logically, I know that. But fear isn't logical. No, it's not. I reached for her good hand again. But love isn't logical either. And I love you, Elena. Not the idea of you. Not the potential of you. You. We talked until the sun set. Really talked for the first time since our wedding night. About her fears. About my hurt. About what we needed from each other to make this work. I want to try again, she said as we got ready for bed. Our wedding night. I want to do it right this time. I looked at her. This woman who had hurt me so deeply, but who I couldn't stop loving. What does that look like? I don't know, but I want to find out. With you. That night, we slept in the same bed for the first time since our wedding, but we didn't make love. We just held each other, carefully, tenderly, like two people learning to trust again. The next few weeks were hard. There were conversations that left us both in tears, moments when I wasn't sure we would make it through. But there were also breakthroughs. Moments when Elena let her guard down completely, when she let me see the scared, vulnerable woman behind the CEO facade. We started couples therapy, something Elena initially resisted but eventually embraced. Dr. Evans helped us understand our patterns, the ways we hurt each other without meaning to. Love isn't just a feeling, she told us during one session. It's a choice you make every day. The feeling might fade sometimes, but the choice to love, to stay, to work through problems, that's what makes a marriage last. Elena took those words to heart. She started making different choices, choosing to talk to me when she felt scared instead of shutting down, choosing to trust my love instead of waiting for me to leave. I made different choices too, choosing to voice my needs instead of hoping she would guess, choosing to fight for us instead of giving up when things got hard. 3 months after our wedding night disaster, Elena surprised me with a weekend trip to the coast. We stayed in a little bed and breakfast overlooking the ocean, the kind of place we had talked about for our honeymoon. I have something for you, she said on our last night there, pulling out a small velvet box. My heart stopped. Elena, we're already married. I know, but I want to propose to you properly this time, the way you deserved the first time. She got down on one knee right there on the beach, the sunset painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Will you marry me again? She asked, her voice shaking with emotion. Will you let me love you the way you deserve? Will you help me be brave enough to choose love every day? I was crying before she finished speaking. Yes, of course. Yes. The ring was different from my original wedding ring, a simple band with our initials engraved inside and the date of our second proposal, not replacing the first, but adding to it. I want to renew our vows, she said as she slipped it onto my finger. I want to say them again, and mean them completely this time. We planned a small ceremony for just us, officiated by Dr. Evans in her garden. No guests, no reception, just two women promising to choose each other every day. This time, when Elena said her vows, there was no fear in her eyes, only love and determination and hope for our future. I promise to choose you when it's easy and when it's hard, she said, her voice strong and clear. I promise to trust your love even when I'm scared. I promise to fight for us instead of running away. When I said mine, I promised to be patient with her healing, to call her out when she was self-sabotaging, to never let her forget how worthy of love she was. We kissed as wives for the second time, and this time it felt like a true beginning. That night, we finally had our real wedding night. Not the disaster of our first attempt, but something beautiful and tender and full of hope. We made love like two people who had fought for each other and won, who had chosen each other despite the fear and the hurt. Afterward, as we lay tangled in each other's arms, Elena traced patterns on my bare shoulder. Thank you, she whispered. For what? For not giving up on us. For seeing past my fear to the love underneath. Thank you for learning to trust it. It's been a year now since our second wedding, and we're stronger than we've ever been. Elena still has moments of panic, times when her old fears surface, but now she talks to me about them instead of pushing me away. I've learned to recognize the signs, to offer reassurance without taking responsibility for her healing. We're both works in progress, but we're progressing together. We're talking about starting a family now, about adopting the children we dreamed of. Elena is terrified, of course. Terrified of being a bad mother, of passing on her fears, of not being enough. But she's also excited. She talks about teaching our future daughter to be strong and independent, about showing our son that love comes in all forms. What if I mess them up? She asked me last night as we looked through adoption websites. What if you don't? I countered. What if you give them exactly what they need? A mother who fights for love, who chooses courage over fear. She smiled then, that soft smile she saves just for me. When did you get so wise? I learned from the best, from a woman who taught me that love is worth fighting for, even when it's scary. Sometimes I think about that night, our original wedding night, and I wonder what would have happened if I had given up, if I had let her words be the end of our story instead of the beginning of our real journey. But I didn't give up. Neither did she. We chose to fight for love, to choose each other despite our fears and flaws, and that choice, made every single day, has given us something more beautiful than any fairy tale. A real love, tested and proven, that grows stronger with each challenge we face together. Our marriage wasn't a mistake. It was the best decision we ever made. We just had to learn how to make it every day. If this video reached you, it's because something in it is meant for you. Leave your like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from and what time it is right now. Now let's continue the story, and afterward tell me which part was meant for you. The morning light filtered through our bedroom windows as I watched Elena getting ready for work, the same ritual I had witnessed hundreds of times before, but now it felt different, sacred, almost. Every small gesture, the way she buttoned her blouse, the careful application of her lipstick, the final check in the mirror, all of it was a choice to stay, to build this life with me. You're staring, she said, catching my eyes in the mirror's reflection, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. I'm appreciating, I corrected, stretching lazily in our bed. There's a difference. She turned to face me, fully dressed now in her sharp business suit, but her expression was soft. I have that board meeting today, the one about the new acquisition. I knew the one she meant. It had been keeping her up at night for weeks, going over projections and strategies. The old Elena would have shouldered that stress alone, would have worked herself into exhaustion without saying a word. How are you feeling about it? I asked. She sat on the edge of the bed, reaching for my hand, terrified, excited, like I might throw up. She laughed. You know, the usual. You're going to be brilliant. You always are. What if they reject the proposal? What if I've miscalculated something? I squeezed her hand. Then you'll figure out plan B. And if plan B doesn't work, you'll create plan C. That's who you are, Elena. You don't give up. She leaned down to kiss me, soft and lingering. I love you. I love you too. Now go show them why you're the best CEO in Oregon. After she left, I made my way to the kitchen, our morning routine now as natural as breathing. Coffee for me, green tea for her in a travel mug, a note tucked into her laptop bag with some silly encouragement that would make her smile during her lunch break. My phone buzzed with a text from my sister. Dinner this Sunday? Mom wants to see you both. The casual inclusion of Elena in family plans still made my heart warm. It had taken time for my family to fully accept our relationship, but now they couldn't imagine family gatherings without her. My mother, who had initially struggled with my sexuality, now bragged about her brilliant daughter-in-law to anyone who would listen. I was responding to the text when another message came through, this one from Elena. Wish me luck. About to walk into the lion's den. I quickly typed back, you don't need luck. You have skill, preparation, and the most beautiful brain in the business world, but sending you all my love anyway. Her response was immediate. How did I get so lucky? We both got lucky, I replied. Now go be amazing. I spent the morning working from home, editing articles for the lifestyle magazine where I worked as a freelance writer. It was a career change I had made after our wedding crisis, realizing that I wanted more flexibility, more time for the life Elena and I were building together. Around noon, my phone rang. Elena's name on the screen made me smile. How did it go? I answered. They approved it. Her voice was bright with excitement and relief. Not only approved it, but they want to fast-track the timeline. I can't believe it actually worked. I can. You're incredible, Elena. I couldn't have done it without you. Knowing you believed in me, it made all the difference. I always believe in you. I know. That's what makes you so amazing. There was a pause. I'm taking the afternoon off. Want to celebrate? What did you have in mind? Remember that little cafe we went to on our second date? The one with the terrible coffee but the amazing pastries? I laughed. You want to go back to a place with terrible coffee? I want to go back to where I first knew I was falling in love with you. My heart melted. Even after all this time, Elena could still surprise me with her romantic gestures. I'll meet you there in an hour. The cafe looked exactly the same as it had 2 years ago. Mismatched furniture, local art on the walls, and yes, still terrible coffee. But it was our place. The spot where Elena had nervously asked if she could see me again, where I had realized that this brilliant, complicated woman was going to change my life. Table for two? The young barista asked as we walked in. Actually, Elena said, could we have that table by the window, the one in the corner? It was the same table where we had sat on our second date, where Elena had spilled coffee on her white shirt and laughed instead of getting frustrated, where I had seen the real woman behind the CEO facade for the first time. We ordered terrible coffee and those amazing almond croissants and settled into our seats. Tell me about the meeting, I said, reaching across the table to take her hand. Elena's eyes lit up as she described the presentation, the questions from the board, the moment when she knew they were going to say yes. I loved watching her talk about her work, the passion and intelligence that had first drawn me to her. And then Richardson, you know, the one who's been skeptical about all my proposals. He actually stood up and applauded. Can you believe that? I can absolutely believe that. You probably blew their minds. She squeezed my hand. I keep thinking about what Dr. Evans said about choosing courage over fear. A year ago, I would have been too scared to propose something this ambitious, too worried about failing. What changed? You. Us. Learning that it's okay to take risks when you have someone who believes in you no matter what. I felt tears prick my eyes. Elena, I mean it. You've made me braver in every part of my life. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment, watching the world go by outside the window. Young couples walking hand in hand, families with strollers, the everyday magic of life continuing around us. I have something to tell you, Elena said suddenly, her voice taking on a nervous edge. My stomach dropped. Even now, even after everything we had been through, unexpected announcements still made me panic slightly. What is it? She reached into her purse and pulled out a manila envelope. I got this yesterday. I wanted to wait until after the meeting to show you. I took the envelope with shaking hands. Elena, what is this? Just open it. Inside were official-looking documents with the letterhead of the adoption agency we had been working with. I scanned the first page, my heart racing as I read. "We've been approved," I whispered. "We've been approved," Elena confirmed, her voice thick with emotion. I looked up at her, hardly daring to believe it. "We're going to be parents? We're going to be parents." I started crying then, right there in the cafe with the terrible coffee and the amazing pastries. Happy tears, overwhelmed tears, tears of pure joy and disbelief. "When?" I managed to ask. "They want to meet with us next week to discuss potential matches. There's a birth mother who specifically requested a same-sex couple. She's due in 3 months." 3 months? I laughed through my tears. "We're going to have a baby in 3 months? Maybe, if everything goes well with the meeting." I reached across the table and grabbed both of her hands. "Are you scared?" "Terrified," she admitted. "But also, ready. I think I'm finally ready." "What changed your mind? Last month you were still worried about messing up a child." She was quiet for a moment, considering. "I realized that being scared doesn't mean I shouldn't do it. It just means it matters to me. And I want this. With you. I want to build a family with you." "I love you so much," I said, probably too loudly for the quiet cafe. But I didn't care. "I love you too." We spent the rest of the afternoon talking about names and nursery themes and all the dreams we had been afraid to voice out loud. Elena pulled out her phone and showed me the research she had already done. Pediatricians and preschools and college savings plans. "You've really thought this through," I said, scrolling through her meticulously organized notes. "I'm a planner. You know this about me." "I do, and I love that about you." As the sun began to set, we walked home hand in hand, stopping at the baby store we had passed countless times but never dared to enter. "Should we go in?" Elena asked, staring at the window display of tiny clothes and cribs. "Are you ready for that?" She took a deep breath. "I think so." The store was overwhelming in the best way. Rows upon rows of everything a baby could possibly need. We wandered the aisles like tourists in a foreign country, picking up tiny onesies and soft blankets, marveling at how small everything was. "Look at this," Elena said, holding up a onesie that read, "My moms are awesome." I burst into laughter. "We have to get it. It's probably too early. We don't even know if the meeting will go well." "Elena," I took the onesie from her hands. "We're getting it. We're going to be optimistic about this." She smiled, that brilliant smile that had first made me fall in love with her. "Okay, we're being optimistic." We left the store with a small bag containing the onesie, a soft yellow blanket, and a stuffed elephant that Elena insisted our future child would need. "No regrets?" I asked as we walked home. "None," she said firmly. "Well, maybe one." My heart skipped. "What?" "I wish I had been ready for this sooner. I wish I hadn't wasted so much time being scared." It wasn't wasted time. It was healing time. Growing time. We needed to be ready. Both of us. "When did you get so wise?" she asked, echoing the question from the night before. "I learned from my wife. She taught me that love is worth waiting for, worth fighting for, worth choosing every single day." That night, we spread the adoption paperwork across our dining room table, reading through every detail, asking each other questions we had never thought to ask. "What if we're terrible at this?" Elena asked, looking up from a pamphlet about infant care. "What if we're not?" I countered. "What if we're exactly what this baby needs? You really think we can do this?" I looked at her, this brilliant, complicated, beautiful woman who had learned to choose love over fear, and I had never been more certain of anything. "I think we can do anything together." She reached for my hand across the table. Together. Together. The next week flew by in a blur of preparation for our meeting with the adoption agency. Elena, true to form, had prepared a presentation about why we would be good parents, complete with charts and references. "You know this isn't a business meeting, right?" I teased as she practiced her talking points. "I know, but I want to be prepared. I want them to see how much we want this." The day of the meeting, we both dressed carefully, professional but approachable, the kind of people you would trust with your child. Elena wore her lucky earrings, the ones I had given her for our first anniversary. The adoption agency was warm and welcoming, nothing like the sterile government buildings I had imagined. Our caseworker, Linda, was a kind woman in her 50s who immediately put us at ease. "Tell me about yourselves," she said, settling into her chair with our file open in front of her. Elena and I looked at each other, and she nodded for me to start. "We've been together for 3 years, married for 1, I began. We both work in fields we're passionate about, and we've always known we wanted children. What made you choose adoption? Linda asked. We want to give a child the kind of love and stability we never had to question, Elena said. We know what it's like to feel different, to not fit into traditional expectations. We want to create a home where a child can be exactly who they are. Linda smiled. That's beautiful. Tell me about your relationship. How do you handle conflict? I felt Elena tense slightly beside me, and I knew she was thinking about our wedding night, about how badly we had handled conflict in the beginning. We've learned that communication is everything, I said. We've been through some challenges, and they've made us stronger. We're in couples therapy, Elena added, her voice steady. Not because we're having problems, but because we want to be the best partners and parents we can be. Linda nodded approvingly. I appreciate your honesty. Many couples aren't willing to admit they need help. The interview continued for another hour, covering everything from our finances, to our parenting philosophies, to our support systems. By the end, I felt like Linda knew us better than some of our closest friends. I'd like you to meet someone, Linda said as we wrapped up. Chloe is the birth mother I mentioned. She specifically requested to meet potential families before making her decision. My heart started racing. Now, if you're comfortable with that, she's here today for her appointment. Elena and I looked at each other. We had prepared for this possibility, but it still felt surreal. We'd love to meet her, Elena said. Chloe was younger than I had expected, maybe 22, with kind eyes and a nervous smile. Her pregnancy was clearly showing now, and she kept one hand protectively over her belly as we talked. I want you to know, she said after we had introduced ourselves. This isn't about not wanting the baby. I love this baby so much, but I'm not ready to be a mom, and I want to make sure they go to people who are. We understand, I said softly, and we think it's incredibly brave of you to make this choice. Tell me about your life together, Chloe said. What would this baby's life look like with you? For the next hour, we painted a picture of the life we wanted to give a child. Saturday morning pancakes and bedtime stories, family vacations and homework help, unconditional love and endless support. I have one more question, Chloe said as our time was winding down. Why should I choose you? Elena was quiet for a moment, and I could see her choosing her words carefully. Because we know what it's like to be different, she said finally. We know what it's like to have to fight for acceptance, for love, for the right to exist as we are. And we want to make sure this baby never has to fight those battles alone. Chloe's eyes filled with tears. I was hoping you would say something like that. 2 weeks later, Linda called with the news. Chloe had chosen us. She said she knew from the moment she met you that you were meant to be this baby's parents. Linda told us over the phone. I dropped the phone and started crying. Elena picked it up, her own voice shaky as she asked about next steps and timelines and all the practical details that would need to be handled. When she hung up, we just held each other in our kitchen, overwhelmed by the magnitude of what was happening. We're going to be moms, Elena whispered. We're going to be moms, I repeated, hardly believing it was real. The next 3 months were a whirlwind of preparation. We painted the nursery a soft green, assembled a crib that took Elena 6 hours and several colorful words to put together, and read every parenting book we could get our hands on. Elena threw herself into preparation, with the same intensity she brought to everything else. She researched pediatricians and interviewed nannies and created spreadsheets for everything from feeding schedules to college savings plans. You know babies don't actually follow spreadsheets, right? I teased one evening as she worked on yet another organizational chart. They will if they're our baby, she said with mock seriousness. I'm going to teach them the importance of proper planning from day one. I loved watching her excitement grow as the due date approached. The woman who had been terrified of parenthood was now reading pregnancy books and attending birthing classes with Chloe, determined to be as prepared as possible for our child's arrival. Chloe had asked us to be present for the birth, a request that both thrilled and terrified us. The night she went into labor, we rushed to the hospital with our carefully packed bag and our hearts in our throats. What if something goes wrong? Elena asked as we sat in the waiting room. Nothing's going to go wrong, I said, trying to convince myself as much as her. What if we're not ready for this? Nobody's ever ready for this. We just have to trust that love is enough. When the nurse came to get us, telling us it was time, Elena grabbed my hand so tightly I thought she might break my fingers. Ready? I asked. No, she said, but let's do it anyway. Our daughter was born at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in March, weighing 6 pounds and 3 ounces of absolute perfection. The moment the doctor placed her in my arms, I understood what people meant when they talked about instant, overwhelming love. "She's beautiful," Elena whispered, tears streaming down her face as she looked at our daughter. "She's perfect," I agreed. Chloe, exhausted but smiling, looked at us holding her baby. "Her name is Lily," she said softly. I always knew that would be her name. Lily. Our Lily. The next few days were a blur of paperwork and hospital visits, and learning how to change diapers and give bottles. Elena, who had been so worried about being a bad mother, was a natural. She sang lullabies in Spanish and English, researched every cry and every facial expression, and fell asleep in the hospital chair with Lily on her chest. "You're going to be an amazing mom," I told her on our last night in the hospital. "We're going to be amazing moms," she corrected. Together. Bringing Lily home was surreal. Our apartment, which had felt so adult and sophisticated, was suddenly full of baby gear and the sweet chaos of new parenthood. The first few weeks were exhausting and wonderful, and terrifying all at once. Elena went back to work after 2 weeks, but she called constantly to check on Lily and me. She would rush home for lunch just to hold the baby for 20 minutes before heading back to the office. "I never understood before," she said one evening, as we sat on the couch, Lily sleeping peacefully between us, "how people could love someone so much so quickly. It's pretty amazing, isn't it? She's going to change everything," Elena said, gently stroking Lily's tiny hand. "Everything good," I agreed. "Do you think she'll be proud of us when she's older and understands our story?" I looked at Elena, this incredible woman who had learned to choose love over fear, who had fought for our relationship and our family, and I had never been more certain of anything. "I think she'll be proud to have 2 moms who love each other enough to fight for their happiness, who chose to build a family based on love instead of fear." "I love you," Elena said, leaning over to kiss me softly. "I love you too, both of you." As I watched my wife and daughter sleeping peacefully beside me, I thought about our journey, the wedding night disaster that had almost destroyed us, the long road back to trust, the courage it had taken to choose love every single day. Our marriage hadn't been a mistake. It had been the beginning of everything beautiful in our lives. And this perfect moment with my wife and daughter, this was what love looked like when you were brave enough to fight for it. Love isn't just about finding the right person. It's about choosing to be the right person for each other, every single day. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable, to trust, to build something beautiful together even when it's scary. At Loving Voices, we believe every love story deserves to be told, especially the ones that show us that love isn't always easy, but it's always worth fighting for. These stories of women loving women, of families built on choice and courage, remind us that love comes in all forms, and all of them are beautiful. If this story touched your heart, if you saw yourself in Elena's fear or in the narrator's